On April 19th of this year, we had 155,000 public servants that went on strike. And of course, this deeply impacted services all across Canada, everything from passport delivery, and I think most significantly were tax returns. People were very concerned about filing their taxes, and many concerned about when they would be processed and when they would get their returns back, from their tax filings. So your negotiations started in June of 2021. Why could you and the Treasury Board not come to an agreement when you had 2 full years to do so?
Thank you so much for your question. I'd also like to thank all Canadians for being so patient. The negotiating bargaining process is necessary in the public service. We began our bargaining with the public service, with the Public Service Alliance, and it can take from 16 to 2 months to 2 years to get to an agreement. So I can assure you that we worked very hard indeed to reach an agreement.
To know that when we first did our first monetary offer last May of 2022, the PSAC chose to leave the table as they no longer wanted to negotiate, and we encouraged them to come back to the table, and that's when it happened, where last April we found a way to do mediation, and as you know, we continued to put all of our efforts at the table, knowing that PSCC had decided to do a strike. We respect the strike decision that they had met. But we did get to an agreement, and I was very proud, and I'm waiting to ratify it.
Because we had almost a 2-week strike, where so many services came to a standstill. Passports, as I said, seniors worried about getting their tax returns. Can you tell Canadians and Canadian taxpayers today, how much did that 2-week strike cost Canadians? How much did 155,000 public servants on strike cost Canadians, please?
Well, thank you again. And I do want to thank Canadians for their patience. As we know, we did have some essential services that were possible. Some of those essential services were, for example, EI, veterans, supports. And one, of course, as you mentioned, passports was not something that was considered essential, except if it was a humanitarian reason, which, as we know, it takes a lot to be able to do that. Therefore, I have to say that we concentrated on getting a good deal, and when the strike was over, I know that Minister Gold was sure to have all of the efforts to get back on track, and we are back on track with passports.
Did you get a good deal? I think Canadians are wondering, did you get a good deal? I've read the PSAC summary, and for PSAC members, it's 12% wage increase over 4 years, 12.6% compounded over 4 years, a $2,500 pensionable lump sum payment averaging 3.7% of salary. That's an average of $23,000 per public servant, and this excludes, Madam President, group-specific allowances as well as group-specific wage adjustments. So I think the question on every Canadian's mind right now is how much, and I'm very grateful you reached these negotiations finally. I look forward to them being ratified. How much will this cost Canadians, Madam President? How much will this cost Canadians, please?
Thank you. And I believe we have a good deal that is reasonable for Canadians and also fair for public servants. It's an ongoing cost will be estimated to $1.3 billion a year. And we have now 10 tentative agreements. As you know, there's 28 altogether with the core public service. So now that we have 10 tentative agreements, which cover over 60% of employees, it's an additional cost of $1.8 billion a year, which represents the current negotiation offered on the table.
So $1.3 billion at a time where Canada is in an inflationary crisis, a cost of living crisis. I mean, that's quite a price tag, Madam President. I will say Now, going forward with services, as I said, many services were impacted during the strike themselves. Are there any backlogs in services, or are there still services which are still not being delivered to Canadians as a result of this strike? And my final question that I'll put to you, that I hope you will have time to answer, is: Will these services be delivered? And is there the expectation that we will not have another strike in the future, given the pending of the ratification of these negotiations and agreements, Madam President?
So for the three questions you asked, first for the vote is happening right now, and I respect the PSAC will ratify, hopefully, that vote. And it's happening as we speak, so let's look forward to a positive vote. Second, as for services, I believe everything's back on track from the strike issue. As we know, there are some of the services that were in backlog before we started the strike. So I know that at this time, the effect of the strike, I believe we are back in service. And the third question you asked, I have to say that we did follow the public commission, the public Interest Commission, which had recommended a certain percentage, which is the one that we offered to public servants. And I strongly believe that we also have to recognize that...
I'm sorry, Minister, that is...
sorry,
it's past our